Hi, and welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. We're working on our Barn Star project out of this book called The Barn Star Sampler by Shelley Cavanagh. And I was just asked the other day, where did I get the book? And I had been watching a YouTube video that had some of these designs in the video, and they mentioned the book. And at the time that they mentioned the book, they said it was unavailable. But I did a quick search on Amazon and I found this one, and that's where I bought my book. I think it may be available in local quilt stores or maybe through the publisher directly, but I got mine through Amazon. It is by Shelley Cavanagh and it's published by C&T Publishing Company. And I'll put that link back in the description of this video just in case someone's looking for it now. So what we're doing is we're making today the Tulip Star Block. And the design that we're creating from this book, and I want to just revisit real quickly, we're not doing the design on the front. We are picking blocks within this book and putting together our own combination of these blocks to have a quilt. And the very center of the quilt is called Diamond Star, and it is a huge 24 by 24 inch block. And then we're going to surround that block with the 16-inch blocks. So we've done Farmer Star, and we did Northern Star. This is Northern Star here. And now we're doing Tulip Star. So that's the one we're working on today. Grab something to drink, and we'll be right back and get started with it. And welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Well, hi and welcome back. Today I'm working on Tulip Star, and we did a little bit of work on this particular block last week when we talked about the efficiencies of intermittent sewing. And that's when you take a lot of like pieces that have like seams and you sew all those together. You may choose to press it at the same time or you may not. It's how to use small amounts of time in the most efficient manner. Well, we've made a lot of pieces, and right now I have 2 of these blocks completed. I need 4 for my quilt design. And then I have a lot of pieces combined here for the other 2. But I wanted to take you through how to construct some of these pieces on this block and then how to bring it all together. So we're going to get started with that now. Now, the very outside blocks on this block is a little tulip. And the tulip is very similar to a log cabin. And to do that, what you do is you start with 2 very small pieces of fabric and you're going to sew them together. Now for this section, I am using my, excuse me, my 24. My 1/4 inch foot with the guide on the side, and I've got my stitch seam set for 2.4. And we're going to get started. So we sew the very center, which is that blue block, onto the first white one. We're going to do a little finger pressing here, and then we're going to take the very next one and sew it on. And I always like to have one that I can look at just to make sure I'm positioning them right. Line this up. Now last night I was doing this and I was trying to get 2 of these outside blocks together with the centerpiece that goes in the middle. And I sewed them together and realized I had sewn them on the wrong side. So that's why I like to have that example that I can look at just so that I can position my pieces the same way and see that they match. Now to that little block, and we're still really small, it's 3 inches by 3 inches, we're going to start adding some of these other pieces. And here again, I'm looking at this the same way. I'm positioning them on top of them so I can make sure that they are facing in the right direction. We're still using straight seams down the edge of the fabric. Those are my favorite kind. The ones that go diagonal are not my favorite. I don't know if that's just, I just dislike them or I struggle with them. Could be either one. I'm still finger pressing. Okay, and then we're going to do the next one. Now on these blocks, they're strips. I like to call them flying goose because it's constructed the same way that a flying geese piece would be done, only it's only one side. And we're just positioning that with this block that we've started assembling. And it's sewn by putting the pieces round and round around the center. Okay, we're just a few minutes in and we have this little tulip. Now, from here, we're going to continue and put 2 green strips on the same way I just did that. And I need one short one and one long one. These were already done ahead of time using that intermittent sewing. Let me just do a little finger pressing here so we can keep going. Ideally, I'd like to press these each time, but to keep up with this, we need to keep it moving. Now, when you're sewing one angled seam to another angled seam, or actually any of the seams where you're changing fabric, you want to make sure that they're matched up well. And the way that I've pressed these seams are nesting together. So it makes it really easy to match those seams up so your points will come together. And if you'll give me just a minute to sew this, I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, and we've put that together, and you can see that that little angle here and the angle here have come together, just they meet just perfectly together. And like I said, I always have really good luck with this when the seams nest together. When all the seams are pushed to the same side, that's when I begin to have problems. And we're going to do the same thing for the other side. And in true log cabin fashion, you will find that your pieces get bigger as you move further away from the center of the block or the square. Now you'll notice I'm not pinning these too much because I've done quite a few of them. A lot of the techniques in this block are the same as the techniques in the other. So after a while you begin to see what works really well and what doesn't. So now we have this whole block. Now I'm going to go and press these, and I've got one more that I need to put together really quickly. We'll do that, and then I'll begin to show you how the block comes together. This is the hardest part of this whole block. The piece in the middle and the piece that connect 2 of those together, very easy, straight seams, very straightforward. So it does come together really quickly. I'll be right back after this. I have completed, I actually had 3 I had to do, and I thought I could only do 2 because I was missing a piece, but I found the piece, so that's great. So I've got 3 done here to complete what I have already assembled. Let me give you a little tip about a couple of things. Well, one thing in particular, ironing and pressing, and when you do the seams, You could choose to press after every seam, or sometimes you could do every other seam, whatever works best for you. If you could keep the direction of those seams when you're stitching pieces together going in the right direction, then you may be able to go more seams between presses. But how I usually press is I press the back side so I can get those seams going and kind of tug them just a little bit when I'm pressing so that they are fully extended and they are laying flat. And then I turn it over and press the top side. And when I'm doing that, I'm also going to try to pay attention to any places that the unit looks out of square. So if one side may be pulling in a little bit, and sometimes you have that when you have a lot of pieces coming together. They're either not quite straight or they're a little out of alignment. So when I press, I will try to almost block it, press in the ways that it makes it a little bit more square, and that makes it a little bit easier to sew together. And sometimes then you can adjust your seam slightly to make up for any difference. So we have now 3 of those. We're going to need 1 up here, 2 in this corner, and now here's what we have. Let me show you how this goes together. First, you complete your corner block with the tulip. And then onto that, you're going to sew one of these pieces. This is simply 2 squares of fabric that you sew together, and then it's sewn on the block. So you've got this piece. And then you sew this to the one tulip. That's what we're going to do now. And with this, there are no seams to match up. So I'm just going to put a pin right in the middle. And I've got, I think, 3 of those to do. We're not having to really match up anything. We just don't want them to shift on us. And then there's 1 over here. And you want to be mindful of placement so that you're not getting one of those corner tulip blocks spun around. So we're going to stitch those real quick. And this is just a straight seam down the fabric. So it goes really quickly. That's what I thought. Am I sewing anything? I'm not sewing anything. I was looking at my needle and I could tell that there was a lot of thread dancing around there. And I don't know exactly what is going on. The needle is unthreaded now. I don't know if it got pulled out or if there was something weird going on. It wanted to be cantankerous with me last night when I was sewing. Ooh, there's a burr in the thread, and I bet that's what happened. I think it got to the burr and it probably just pulled itself out. Okay, let's try it again, shall we? Much better. We did get a stitch, and we can just stitch all 3 of these right after the other. That's the part I really like. I never really have been able to get a positioning so that I could sit in my sewing machine for long periods of time and sew. I don't know if that's because I wear glasses. I don't think it's the height of the sewing machine because this table is adjustable and I've tried it a couple of different ways. Sometimes I have the same problem at a desk with a computer. So it may be just the differences in, you know, how long my legs are and how far I sit up in a chair, or I don't know, something weird. But I do like to be able to get as much sewing done as I can in sitting, because I find I can't really sit for that long when I'm sewing. Okay, don't want to run over my cord there. Let me adjust my chair a little bit. Okay, so now we've got this piece, and this is the 2 tulip blocks with the little piece in the middle as the separator. And we will sew on the middle piece, and all the middle pieces is the white, the polka dot, the white, the polka dot, and then the blue piece for the middle. Depending on the fabric you're using, that could vary a little bit. And I've not pressed that other piece, but I think we can just keep rolling with this, because really I've found that I only have to match up the 2 pieces in the middle. The other seams I'm pretty much able to hold in place, and then it's going to be one long seam. And the only place I really had to slow down and take a look was a place where I needed to make sure that the seam was laying the right way on the bottom side. So now you've got this. You've got your 2, excuse me, you've got your 2 tulip blocks on the corners, your piece in the middle, and then the center piece, which is just the 2 pieces that you would normally have here, and the middle. And we're going to now sew the other side on, and that is going to be this. And we're going to be able to sew those pieces together. So then we'll have 4 tulip blocks in the corner, the connecting side pieces, and then the center. And this is going to be exactly like we just did it. It's simply going to be, in my case, nesting those 2 seams in the middle. And I love it when they fit together just the way they should. And then the other should be close enough that we can just start sewing. That was easy, and it's very quick. And now what you'll see is we have the completed block. And our seams matched up really nicely here in the center block. I think I see no problem with seams at all. This has been a really good block where your pieces come together here. Exceptionally easy as far as matching those up, because they're similar kind of angles and they're in similar places here. So they come together really nicely, and by having those seams pressed to one side or the other, They nest and they hold together tight. I found this one to be more difficult as far as keeping the angled seams matching, and that's because if you'll notice here, the seams are going in different directions. So while this and this might match up, this is not. It just made it more difficult because there's more layers of fabric in those areas where they're coming together, and it just was a little more troublesome to get them all matched up. I know I had one area in one of these Northern Star blocks that was very troublesome. I had to take the seams out and redo it 3 times to get it close enough that I thought after quilting you would not notice it. This one has been just a breeze. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew that one seam on this block and press them, and we'll come back and wrap up with this block, and then we'll tell you what's next for this project. We're back and we've got our tulip block all pressed and shaped up, and there it is. It's a really pretty block, and it would be really pretty in a lot of different colors. It's very springy to me. So if you wanted to incorporate this in another kind of quilt, I think that would be really great. Again, I'm going to say that I think this was one of the easier ones for matching up seams and getting everything to come out really nicely. The only thing I'll caution you with is the little areas here in the point of the tulip. This little block tends to be a little smaller than I would like. So I've found that when I'm pressing it, I'm kind of tugging at it just a little bit to stretch it out. And when I start assembling all these blocks together, I'll probably have to do that as well. So we've got 4 of these made. We did 2 today. I had 2, excuse me, 2 already done. And then we had the Northern Star block, and we have that one plus 3 others. So we've got 4 of those ready to go. And then our first 16-inch block that we did was Farmer's Star. And we have 4 of those. So we've got 12 of these 16-inch blocks. To come together with the design we need, we need 4 more 16-inch blocks. And what I haven't determined is what that other block is going to be. Do I need to pick one out of the book that's just a 16-inch? Do I want to try to take elements of different blocks and design my own as something unique for this? But we need 4 more to be able to encapsulate that large Diamond Star block. And if you're interested in seeing that Diamond Star block, please see the video that we have on that. It is this block right down here in the bottom, and it's done in these same fabrics. A couple of points. So far in what we've done, I have only used the fabric that we initially bought. I have not touched the additional fabric that I bought. And this is what I have left of that initial fabric. Now I do have a pretty good bit of this one because, as you recall, I bought all they had, which was more than the other pieces. And I've got a pretty good bit of the solid blue. But I've got more of the navy polka dot, the green, and the blue in the additional fabrics. And then going back, if you recall, we had one error in the cutting where we cut too many of the solid blue blocks. I've been able to use a lot of those, but I still do have some that's already cut. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use those in those 4 blocks that we need to make or not. So that is what's going on with fabric and design choices. And I am going to be working on how I want that other block to come together. And also doing some preliminary mock-ups with these blocks together to know how they look best assembled. I'm thinking right now we've got 3 different patterns, and they all accentuate a different fabric a little more. To me, this one accentuates the green, with the navy polka dot being the secondary fabric. This one accentuates the gray polka dot fabric because that's what's used most, with the plain navy being the secondary one. Or maybe the green, I don't know. I think it depends on how your eye catches it. And then Farmer Star, the star is the navy polka dot, I think, and then the aqua fabric. So how do these go together best? Initially, I'm thinking they'll go together like this, with the Farmer Star in the middle, because it is, to me, the boldest. It has the most dark fabrics. The other 2 are a little lighter, so I think I'll put them on each end. And we may be looking for our missing block as the ones in the corners. So I need to think about that and decide how to come together with it. The other thing that I've been toying about, and we've not talked about previously, is putting a little border around each of these 16-inch squares so they're not touching each other, because I'm not sure how that will look as they come together. They may need something that gives them a little framing instead of having them right up against each other, so that they can really be the star as well. But we'll be thinking about that in the coming week to try to decide what direction we're going with that. For the first time in a long time, I don't have any actual sewing as homework for this project, but I do have some thinking and designing to do to get us moving along. So thank you so much for joining us while we work on the Tulip Block in the Barnstar Sampler book and our project that we're working on. Thanks, and if you would please give us a thumbs up. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you've not already done that. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next week at the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Have a great day.